Contrary to popular belief, nonprofits are not this completely different animal than the for-profit companies that we all patronize. Nonprofits still have a product, but that product is the mission. We still have customers, but our customers are supporters. So in this lesson, we're going to talk about how nonprofits can take things that we know from the for-profit sector and apply to nonprofit enterprise when it comes to selling and marketing our product. Now that we understand the importance of donors in any nonprofit organization and providing that financial support, let's talk about how we can effectively sell the cause to those current and prospective donors. By the end of this lesson, you'll understand how to apply marketing practices, including the 4 P's of marketing, marketing concepts, and segmentation strategies, specifically to the nonprofit sector. You'll be able to describe how we sell hope in nonprofit organizations, how we enact a promotional mix, how we use market segmentation, and how we leverage storytelling and effective marketing practices. First, I want to start by describing the concept of marketing and what we mean when we say target markets. Many nonprofits originate, and some of them always stay, as grassroots organizations, meaning that they have a really strong local basis and presence. Most of their programs and services and initiatives are local and community driven, and their movements address specific issues related to that community from the ground up. And marketing for grassroots organizations can be a little bit more simple than marketing for bigger organizations or those that go beyond a really small grassroots community. So this is where marketing is really important and how it comes into play. Marketing is a strategic process of identifying, creating, promoting, and delivering products and services that fulfill customer needs and that create value for both the organization and its target audience. And remember, in nonprofit organizations, we're not selling a traditional product or service. We're selling the mission. And customers are our supporters and our donors and our volunteers and those stakeholder groups. And they're not buying the product, but instead they're contributing their donations, their time, and all kinds of other things that are of value. So all the things that we know that works really well in the for-profit sector can apply to nonprofits as well. In the discipline of marketing, it's really important to understand the concept of a target market. So a target market is simply the market that you want to target. It's a specific group of potential customers that you're trying to reach, that you're trying to sell your products or your services to. They're the people who are most likely to buy your products or your services. In a nonprofit organization, that low-hanging fruit is that general target market. And that's going to be any person who is impacted by that cause or is impacted by the purpose that mission aims to address. So as a cancer survivor, I'm obviously the target market for the cancer support community, an organization of which I support and I'm on the board because I have a direct and personal connection to that cause and their mission. So in marketing, you don't want to try to sell to everybody. You really want to narrow down that big, broad market and identify your target market and concentrate your efforts there, especially in nonprofits, because you are so limited on resources, both financial resources and also people resources. Now, unfortunately, many nonprofits completely ignore marketing, at least in the formalized way. They're so focused on programs and services and serving the community, which obviously that's really important work, that marketing falls by the wayside. Further, a lot of agencies are really reluctant to invest donor dollars in marketing because there's a lot of scrutiny about how nonprofits spend their money. And a lot of times people are short-sighted or they don't understand marketing and they see it as a waste of money. But they're not seeing how marketing actually benefits the organization and can sometimes be a critical piece of the puzzle in achieving that mission. Now that we know that nonprofit marketing is very much the same as for-profit marketing in many ways, let's talk about another marketing concept that can also apply to nonprofits. And that is the 4 P's of marketing: product, place, price, and promotion. When we talk about the concept of marketing, the first thing that many people think about are ads. They think of marketing as just advertising, of the selling piece, and that's not true. In fact, the activity of marketing is comprised of 4 important functions. One of them is the selling and advertising piece, which that's promotion, but there are 3 other segments of marketing that go into that mix that are just as important. And those things include product, place, and price. So when we talk about the 4 P's of marketing, we're talking about all of these things, these mix of activities, with these activities being product, place, price, and promotion. Product is a no-brainer. Obviously, that's the product that you're selling. And again, sometimes people have a hard time applying corporate or for-profit business approaches to the nonprofit sector. In reality, nonprofits are more similar to for-profit enterprise than they are different. We just have to look at things from a slightly different perspective. So in nonprofits, we don't have a tangible product. We're not selling tennis shoes or clothes or a cleaning service. We are selling our mission. We're selling the cause. We're getting people hyped up, inspired by the mission, so they want to support it. Place in marketing mix refers to where stakeholders can buy that product. So in the nonprofit sector, we need to think about if someone wants to support us and buy our product, and by buy our product, we mean donate money in support of the cause, we have to think about the place aspect of where our constituents can donate and or engage with our agency through our events, programs, and services. Promotion is the traditional aspect of marketing that most people think about when they hear the word marketing. This includes advertising, public relations, personal selling. In nonprofits, this is all of that development work that we spent an entire lesson talking about, and things like direct marketing. This is where we are selling the cause, and we're going to talk about that. And then finally, price. In the for-profit sector, you sell a product, like a pair of tennis shoes. You set a price for that. You determine all of your product cost, all your production costs. You determine your selling price. You determine your net profit per unit. In the nonprofit sector, we look at things a little bit differently because we're not selling a traditional product. We're selling hope. And people are buying that hope and that mission through their support and their financial support and their donations. Now, when it comes to the price component of the marketing mix in the nonprofit sector, we have to think about the fact of, do we want to have different levels of giving? Most nonprofits have tiered giving. We spent a prior lesson talking about different levels of giving and how some nonprofits classify gifts as major gifts, mid-level gifts, entry-level gifts, annual gifts, recurring gifts. So think about price in the nonprofit world as how we identify or classify these donations. On top of that, many nonprofits set forth different levels. So to encourage donors to go from maybe a mid-level gift to a major gift, they'll enact different levels of donations. So these levels, what they're called and what those amounts are to be in those levels, that is completely up to the nonprofit agency. And if you go out and research nonprofits, if you work at a nonprofit, if you're doing an agency analysis for a nonprofit, see if you can get your hands on any sponsorship forms and or any donation levels to see how that agency specifically addresses this. What are their levels called? What are the amounts of donations that have to be made to fit within a certain level, and so on and so forth. So let's talk a little bit more about what products are in nonprofits, and specifically talk about that promotional aspect of selling, which is, in this context, selling hope. Of the 4 Ps, product is the most visible. And again, this refers to those intangible or tangible goods, services, and offerings that a company provides. And at the end of the day, it's about creating value, fulfilling a customer want or need, and engaging in that exchange. So the customer has money, they want and need that product in their life, they buy the product and they exchange their money. So in the nonprofit sector, we're selling the belief that support of our organization or buying our product, and by buying our product, I mean making a donation, that is going to support the organization in its pursuit of achieving its stated mission. So we are selling hope. Hope is our product. Hope that we're going to be successful in achieving our mission. Now, in the for-profit sector, companies have what are called a product mix. Rarely does a company literally sell just one product. Sometimes they do, but usually it's an array of things. And that's what we call the product mix. Now, if you look at the nonprofit sector, we bring in supporter revenue through a lot of different channels, not just direct donations, but also through other things as well. So if we want to apply the for-profit notion of product mix to the nonprofit sector, we can categorize the things that nonprofits do as our products, and we can put them into buckets. And these buckets are mission, events, programs, and tangible products. In marketing, when we refer to a primary product, we are referring to that company's main offering, the most important offering, their biggest seller. And this is what provides that primary value and that benefit to customers. And in nonprofits, our primary product is mission. Because remember, in nonprofits, mission reigns supreme, and that goes for our product mix as well. So the most important thing we're selling, above and beyond everything else, is the mission. Now, secondary products are additional things or secondary things. They're not the main product, but they complement that primary product. But it's other things that companies sell or produce to create additional value to complement their primary product that also can generate some money as well. So in the nonprofit sector, we can categorize these secondary products as events, programs, and tangible products. Now remember, our primary product, that overarching most important thing that we're selling in nonprofits, is the mission. So what we're trying to do is to do that development work to get donations by selling belief and hope that if you support this organization with your hard-earned money, we will achieve our mission. And we also have to convince people that our mission matters, that it's important. But sometimes it's not as easy as just saying, here's our mission, it's a great cause, please donate. So a lot of nonprofits diversify into this product mix and they offer secondary products. These secondary products that complement the mission, and they're still related to that mission, are events, programs, and tangible products. Events refer to selling attendance and participation in fundraising events. Sometimes a prospective supporter, they're not just going to write a $500 check as a donation, but instead they are willing to buy 2 tickets to your black tie fundraising gala, and that costs $500. So a lot of ways that nonprofits generate additional revenue is through fundraising events. This includes things like black tie galas, less formal cocktail events and fundraisers, 5K walks, 10K runs, marathons, food drives, clothing drives, bike rides to raise money in addition to their mission and complement to their mission as a secondary product are programs. So these aren't events where it's you pay an admission fee or you raise a certain amount of money to participate and attend an event, but these are programs. So this is selling participation. So we're not selling attendance, we're not getting donations, we're selling participation and getting people to use our programs and services. So this is one that's not fundraising in nature, but we're using marketing to sell use of the things that we do in terms of programs and services. It doesn't matter if you offer a food pantry if nobody knows about it and your food is just sitting there unused by the people who need it. So we have to use marketing to sell our product. And yes, our product in this case is something free. It's something we offer as a benefit to the community. But that's what we do. That's one of our products. It's a secondary product. We're selling use of our food pantry. So we have to sell our programs just like we market and sell our events, just like we market and sell the mission and try to solicit general donations. So we need to go out there and determine what programs and services do we offer that we need to publicize and promote and all of these things in the marketing mix and market as well. And another type of secondary product that nonprofits sometimes use are the actual sale of tangible products. But with tangible products, you're actually selling a tangible product. And tangible means it's something that's touchable. You can look, see, touch, and feel it. So some examples include branded merch. So nonprofits might sell t-shirts with their logo on it, or they sell hats with their logo on it, things like that. The second P of marketing is place. Place refers to where a customer can buy that product. And I mentioned earlier for nonprofits, this includes the place that we're going to sell our opportunity to donate. So if someone wants to make a donation to your organization, where can they do that? So nonprofits need to put thought into the place aspect of their marketing mix. They need to make it easy for people to buy their mission in terms of making a donation. So how can someone support your organization and make a donation if they want to buy into your mission? So most nonprofits have a lot of the same places that they sell their product. You can make donations online, over the phone with a credit card. A lot of them do text to give campaigns. You can even text and give that way. You can donate at events. You can come into the office and physically drop off cash or a check. But these are the ways that you're going to accept donations and also where you're going to accept registration. And that can be for participation in your programs and services and or selling tickets to your fundraising events. And related to ticket sales, leaders must determine where to host events. What makes sense? Where are your supporters likely to live geographically? And when it comes to program delivery, nonprofits need to put thought into place because they need to make sure that they're locating in an area where their beneficiaries can access their programs. Going back to my example of a food pantry, if I'm running a nonprofit that serves people who are dealing with food insecurity, it doesn't make sense for me to locate that out in a really rural area where there's not access to public transportation, where there aren't a lot of people that live geographically. Because people who are facing food insecurity, they might have transportation challenges and they can't physically get themselves to my food pantry. So I need to put thought into this place aspect to ensure that I'm locating my pantry physically and geographically in a place that's easily accessible to my target market of people who need my product or service. And in this case, it's a program. And again, price in the nonprofit sector refers to these giving levels that I talked about. Now, to elaborate a little further, a lot of nonprofits will specify what are called giving societies. Events are sometimes free, but if they're not, and they rely on ticket sales and or corporate sponsorships, Oftentimes, those corporate sponsorships will come at different levels. In general terms, for donations and donors, nonprofits will establish giving societies. And this is simply a structured framework where nonprofits acknowledge donors based on different levels. Now, we know that internally we classify gifts as entry-level gifts, mid-level gifts, major gifts for most agencies, but we don't usually publicize that. But these giving societies, these are publicized and widely publicized because we want to market these things. We want people to know the price. So here's an example of how a nonprofit might use a giving society. A giving society might be for donors that contribute a minimum of $1,000 per year, up to $24.99. And that will get them even certain benefits sometimes. And usually they're free or inexpensive things or access to things. But in this case, they get a special donor newsletter, invitations to special donor events, and a little lapel pin. A believer is someone who donates $2,500 to $4,999. And they get all of the same benefits that a friend level gets, but they also get recognition in that agency's nonprofit report. A champion, this is where we start to get into those higher gifts, depending on the size of the agency and its annual revenue. But a champion might be for donors who contribute between $5,000 and $9,999 per year. This gives a little bit more of benefits, usually things like you can attend our annual conference for free, or you can be a featured presenter at our gala, something like that. And then, of course, your highest level, it's going to have the most aspirational name, but a giving society might refer to its hero level as donors of 10,000 or more. And this is going to give them more face time with leaders of that organization, probably more exclusivity in terms of invitations to donor events, maybe even their name on a plaque in the building or something like that. But by differentiating giving levels, giving some incentive, even a minor incentive, can sometimes be what it takes to motivate donors to give more. So if you have a donor who's an annual donor of, say, $1,500 every single year, if they feel like there's some cachet and social prestige of upping their donation by $1,000 so they can bump up to that believer category, then that might be the impetus to get them to donate more. Another consideration with regard to price that nonprofits should consider is admission cost to their events. Now, if it's a program or service that is meant to fulfill the mission and serve communities that the agency seeks to serve, usually these programs and services are going to be free. Now, free is not always better. Oftentimes, I can tell you from experience, if I offered an event that was free, my no-show rate was really high. But if I put even a small price tag on it, like a $5 admission fee, that really cut down my no-show rate because people had some skin in the game. So just because an agency offers a program or service that is for the community, for beneficiaries, that's related to their mission, and it's not a fundraising event, that doesn't mean that it necessarily has to be free. So these are some of the things that leaders need to consider when they're setting price for their programs and services and non-fundraising events. They also, of course, need to determine the price for their fundraising events. Again, corporate sponsorships, giving levels, ticket sales, the cost of a ticket. But we also need to set a price for our tangible products. And the obvious thing here is these tangible products usually cost nonprofits money to produce unless they're getting an in-kind donation. So they need to make sure that they're marking up the price enough where there is a reasonable profit margin to justify the time it's going to take for them to take orders and to fulfill those orders. Now let's talk about the things that go into a promotion mix. The way that organizations go about promoting their products, services, and offerings to that target audience is what is called a promotion mix. So these are all of the things that we're doing to try to sell our product. Advertising is one component of this, and this involves using paid media to communicate with prospective customers. Many nonprofits don't do this at all because they have a hard time justifying the cost in spending on advertising, but some nonprofits see value in paid advertising, like the Susan G. Komen Foundation is one example. They have a pretty healthy annual budget that they put toward advertising because the way they justify it is their cause is around building awareness of breast cancer, and they need to build awareness by advertising, and they can't always get that free. And paid ads can be pretty much run literally anywhere. TV, online, on social media, on print, even in things like magazines and newspapers, which still do exist. Radio, podcasts, even park benches, sides of buses. If there's somewhere to put an ad, companies are going to sell an ad. Now, many nonprofits are, again, reluctant to pay for advertising. So they rely exclusively on public relations. Public relations is unpaid. So this is promotion that we get for free. And this is a beautiful thing because who doesn't want free promotion? Basically advertising, but without having to pay for it. And in the nonprofit sector, we're often lucky because a lot of news agencies are more willing to give free PR to nonprofit agencies in support of the cause. So every nonprofit needs to be engaging in PR, submitting press releases, calling their local news stations, trying to get interviews on the air to spread awareness of their cause, to spread awareness of the programs they offer to the community, and to build awareness of their events, especially their fundraising events. In the for-profit world, personal selling refers to those one-on-one interactions. So if you want to buy a house, you work with a realtor. If you want to buy some furniture, you go to the furniture store. A salesperson is going to greet you and give you that one-on-one interaction to get the sale. In the nonprofit setting, personal selling as a part of the promotion mix refers to development work. We spent a whole lesson talking about this. This is all of the fundraising work done by development professionals as they move through that donor fundraising cycle that we talked about. In the for-profit world, a lot of companies use sales promotion as part of their promotion mix. This includes things like discounts, coupon codes, contests, different types of giveaways. And they're done with the purpose of encouraging immediate purchases. So subscribe to this monthly service and we'll give you your first month free, things like that. In the nonprofit setting, we don't generally use sales promotion too often as a part of a promotion mix, but there are some really cool ways that we can use this to drive our mission forward. A really great example that I used often when I was in the nonprofit sector was using some of that merch. I didn't sell merch because I didn't think the profit was worth it, but I would actually buy some merch, things like branded t-shirts or water bottles that had the nonprofit logo on it. And then I would offer this as an incentive for people to register for my event. So I would say the first 100 people to register for my annual 5K fundraising walk will get a free hat with the nonprofit logo on it. And it would surprise you how many people get really hyped up and excited about that. And that encourages them to participate and to do what it is that you want and need them to do to help make your event a success. In a promotion mix, direct marketing refers to directly communicating with your target market through things like email campaigns, direct mail, telemarketing, and online advertising. In the nonprofit world, we need to be doing direct marketing because to promote the mission, we have to build general awareness of the cause. And when we're successful in doing that, we drive donations and support to the organization. To promote an event, we need to directly market it. We need to send out event invitations. We need to build excitement in the community about that event. And for programs and products, oftentimes we can use a mix of advertising, which is paid, PR, which is free, sales promotion, and direct marketing. So this is where if I'm running a food pantry, I need people to know I have a food pantry. I need to be doing public relations and going on the news and saying, hey, if you're struggling with food insecurity, we have a food pantry in your community. Here are hours of operation. Come and find us and we'll get you taken care of. But we also use other ways to promote that as well. As we've discussed, there are a lot of potential customers out there in this big old world of ours. So we have to really start to define our target market. Even within that target market, however, we can refine things even more. We can look at what are called market segments. So let's talk about 4 general segmentation strategies that are used in marketing that also apply to the nonprofit sector. A market segment is a distinct subgroup within a larger market. And what makes them a segment is they share one or more common characteristics. Sometimes we segment people based on demographics. So this is age, gender, income, education, whether or not they have kids, whether they're married or not, things like that. So think about it this way. If I am the CEO of the Susan G. Komen Foundation, which strives to build awareness for breast cancer, it stands to reason that I'm going to target a market segment that is women in terms of demographics, because women obviously are the most concerned with breast cancer. Many times we want to segment customers based on their geographic location. If I run a nonprofit in Cincinnati, Ohio, and it is a food pantry in Cincinnati, Ohio, I don't want to be trying to advertise and market and promote my pantry in Wichita, Kansas. No one's going to come from Wichita to get food pantry resources in Cincinnati. So I want to focus on my local geographic segments. So I want to focus on my local geography. And behavioral segmentation. This is where we group people based on their actions. And in the for-profit sector, that is purchasing behavior. But it applies to the nonprofit sector as well. If I'm a development staff and I need to identify donor prospects, A great opportunity would be to look at people who have purchased tickets to my annual black tie fundraising gala. It's $500 per couple. They obviously have some money. They obviously have an interest in the mission. They may not have donated yet, but their attendance in the gala and their purchase of that very high dollar ticket signals to me that that's a pretty good donor prospect. I need to be having a meeting with them. And then finally, psychographic segmentation. This is where we divide people based on psychological factors. It can be attitudes, values, or lifestyle. If you run the Human Rights Campaign, for instance, which is all about advancing equality for the LGBTQ plus population, you might want to segment based on psychographic. People that value equality, people that are more progressive when it comes to social causes, because these people are much more likely to support your cause. Now that you understand how we take a target market and segment it, let's talk about some specific methods nonprofits can deploy when it comes to behavioral factors specifically. As we discussed, one effective method to target and to segment people is based on their behavioral market segmentation. And in nonprofits, nonprofit behavioral segments are distinctive subgroups within the larger target market who share those common behaviors in terms of how they engage with your nonprofit and with its products. So in this case, we're going to look at our constituents and our stakeholders. How are they engaging with us as an agency? Some people strictly donate. You never see them at events. They don't need your services. They don't have the interest or time to volunteer, but they're happy to give you financial support. Some people don't have the means to donate. They don't have the time or interest to volunteer, and they don't have the money, time, or interest in attending your events, but they do receive your services. Sometimes you have people who volunteer, but they don't attend events, they don't donate, and they don't want or need your services or programs. And then finally, event attendees. They love that you throw a good party every year at your gala, but they don't ever want or need to volunteer, they don't ever donate, and they don't want or need your services or programs. So these four things overlap in a Venn diagram. Some people partake in all of these things. Some people partake in one of these four things, and there are overlapping relationships here. So let's talk about one segment of our nonprofit market. And these are people who engage with us as donors. So when we talk about donors, we can actually subcategorize our donors into smaller subgroups. And this is important because the way that we market to them and the way we approach them from a development and fundraising perspective is going to differ. One type of segment in the donor population are Lybunt. This is Lybunt. This refers to donors who donated in the previous year, but they have not yet made a gift in this current year. And Lybunt stands for last year, but unfortunately not this year. So if I'm your executive director, you're a fundraiser, I say, what about this donor? You say, well, they're a Lybunt. That means they donated last year, but unfortunately not this year. So of course, these are going to be our low-hanging fruit. People that have recently donated, you need to be spending your time as a development professional, meeting with them, directly asking them for a donation this year, because if they donated that recently, they're more recently engaged with your mission and cause. They're going to be more likely to give you a gift this year. Next are Sybunts, Sybunt. These are your donors who have given in some previous year or years, but not this current year. So this means some year, but unfortunately not this year. And that could have been 10 years ago. Now, they've donated at some point in the past. They're still a decent donor prospect, but they're not as good of a donor prospect as that segment who donated as recently as the previous year. So if you're doing development work in a nonprofit, you're going to be taking the big segment of people that engage with your nonprofit. You're going to narrow that down to your donors. And then even within your donors, you're going to continue to segment, and that's going to inform your fundraising strategy and determine the people that are worthy of your very, very limited time. And as I mentioned, of those four groups, we have donors. We also have service recipients. So again, these are people who are in your sphere who engage with you as beneficiaries and they receive services. So if I run a food pantry, my service recipients are anyone that is partaking in my food pantry services and coming to get food. As we spent a lot of time discussing, volunteers, they're the backbone of nonprofits, and they can be considered a specific market segment. They engage with the organization through contributions of their time. And then finally, some supporters engage as event attendees. So the way we advertise to event attendees and the way we market our events is going to be different than the way we try to get people to volunteer, the way we solicit donations, the way we advertise our programs and services to our beneficiaries. So the way we often market our events is going to be a completely different market strategy, including a different market segment sometimes than we would look at with the other things. These 4 things, they're a Venn diagram. There is some overlap. Some of these are independent, so you have someone who volunteers, but they don't attend events, they don't donate, and they don't partake in your programs and services. Sometimes people will do 1 or more things, or sometimes people will do all 4 of these things and engage with the nonprofit across all opportunities. One important aspect of selling our cause is through effective storytelling. Remember, at nonprofits, our product is the mission. We want the customer, being the supporter, to buy into our mission through a donation or some other measure of support. One way that we can inspire that action is through storytelling. This is an approach that nonprofits use to connect emotionally with current and prospective supporters. It involves sharing personal stories, telling those narratives of people who have been positively impacted by that organization's mission. It's one thing for me to come to you with my handout and say, please donate to my food pantry. It's a great cause. That's not really a great, compelling way to motivate someone to donate to my food pantry. But if I have a meeting with you as a prospective donor and I bring with me someone who shares with you her personal story about how she utilizes my agency services to feed her children during a really rough patch in her life, and what an absolutely critical resource we were to her at her biggest time of need, and now she's flourishing, she's giving back, she volunteers for the cause. What a great inspirational story. That's going to bring a tear to your eye. That's going to make you feel good. That's going to show you the impact that you're going to make if you donate to my cause. So volunteers are often tasked with helping to share that story. If I'm going into that meeting with someone who's benefited from my services, I need her to be a volunteer and to come with me and to share her time and be willing to share her story. So we use volunteers as a resource with storytelling. Ways that volunteers can tell their stories include testimonials, things like coming to a meeting and verbally sharing, or writing that, and then we put that in the newsletter or on the website or on social media. We can also share stories in our impact reports, program impact reports, donor impact reports, and things like that. By reminding people, this is the difference that your support makes. We use stories extensively in campaigns. If you're outright soliciting gifts through telethons, direct mail, email, don't just ask for a contribution, but share a story. We also can tell stories on online platforms through the newsletter and at events. If I have a black tie charity gala, I'm asking people at the event to donate in addition to the ticket that they bought to get into the room. I want to have someone there to share their story in person, to be a featured speaker, to motivate and inspire people. And that translates to motivating them to make a contribution. While unfortunately, marketing is probably the biggest miss at many nonprofit agencies, as you can see, it can be a critical piece of success. Learning how to leverage marketing strategies used by the most successful for-profit companies and applying it to our nonprofit agencies while simultaneously leveraging the power and impact of storytelling can make a huge difference in the success of our nonprofit organizations.